I love municipal bonds. Municipal bonds are really fun. Fun, 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 fun. Municipal bonds, come and enjoy.
We are continuing our discussion on America's hidden doomsday financial crisis that is unfunded public employee pension obligations, as well as their unfunded retirement health care obligations. Please refer back and watch episodes 17 and 18. And we have also discussed the Wall Street solution to this financial crisis, that of creating a new and funky municipal bond called Pension Obligation Bonds. We covered how this so-called solution of issuing bonds to fix an unfunded liability financial crisis could just be making things worse, and is not really a solution at all. Pension obligation bonds are municipal bonds. And municipal bonds are debt. Does more debt fill in unfunded liabilities deficits? After all the account and paper shuffling is over, not really. The budget realities of pension and retirement health care obligations carry on. Yet we are now deeper in debt. One thing that can be said of pension obligation bonds is that they do transfer some of the risk of paying government worker retirement benefits to investors. And as such, pension obligation bonds could be some form of creepy Ponzi scheme. For a primer on pension obligation bonds, please refer back and watch episode 19. It would be appropriate to ask how this hidden financial crisis came to be. American state and local governments have made promises to their public employees that on retirement, they shall receive traditional defined pension benefits. The cumulative costs are in the trillions of dollars. And state and local governments have made promises to government workers that on their retirement, they shall receive, to varying degrees, the benefit of health care for life. The cumulative costs here are in the additional trillions of dollars. The financial crisis is that state and local governments do not have the necessary money to pay the trillions and additional trillions. The costs for those promised future benefits are not funded, also referred to as underfunded, or unfunded. Some may argue this financial crisis began when public employees were allowed to unionize. Some may further argue the crisis worsened when public employee unions were allowed to collectively bargain, or go on strike, etc., etc. Others may argue the crisis is all about our state and local politicians and government leaders not setting aside required funds to cover estimated future retirement benefits, nor funding pension savings accounts on strict schedules, skipping years, or simply needing or choosing to use the money for other things. These arguments may all be true. Much can be said and debated in their regard to the root causes of America's hidden financial crisis that is public employee unfunded retirement benefits. However, for this episode we will focus on where fault does lay for the actualization of pension obligation bonds as a solution. The source of the idea is easy. It was Wall Street. Their solution to refunding public employee pension funds focused on the issuance of municipal bonds. As always, this is because Wall Street makes money issuing municipal bonds. And the funkier the municipal bond and the bigger the bond issue, the more money Wall Street will make. But who first bought into this clearly questionable, at best lateral idea and helped bring it into being? When Wall Street was pitching a new, funky, big thing called pension obligation bonds, was there a patient zero, so to speak, who took the bait and bit? Unfortunately, yes, there was a generally accepted benchmark beginning. And it lays with the woeful state government of the state of New Jersey. Is there a specific person to whom it is fair and reasonable to picture? Yes, and that person would be former New Jersey Governor Christine Todd Whitman. New Jersey is a financial disaster if you did not know. It has long been so. This we will cover in a future episode. For now, let us look back to the 1990s. Even then, New Jersey was having to deal with more than just ongoing operational budget problems. They were also facing problems concerning the costs of paying for their retired workers' pension and health care benefits. That was 30 years ago. This is when Wall Street came calling. One can imagine their sales pitch: don't take money from your operating budget to cover and rebalance your retirement pension trust funds. Borrow the money instead, and with active management, the money you borrow will grow and take care of your retirement benefits costs forever and ever. And so it went that Christine Todd Whitman did issue pension obligation bonds. And she did so in size. Nearly $3 billion worth. The year was 1997. But it did not go without controversy and opposition. Many argued then it was unwise for Governor Whitman to issue bonds to fill retirement benefits funding gaps. The point being, do not pass the buck on retirement costs. Look at better options. Deal with things now. Others argued issuing pension obligation bonds was not even necessary at the time. Regardless, Christine Todd Whitman had been hooked. There was no stopping her. Unfortunately for New Jersey, things did not go quite as planned. The $3 billion generated from the sale of those pension obligation bonds, that was to be actively managed and last forever, faced headwinds early on. Interest rates and securities markets can turn. Some claim all the money was lost. It is hard to say exactly. But what is true is that New Jerseyans to this day are still paying off those disastrous pension obligation bonds from 1997. And that 1997 bond issue did not fix the retirement benefits funding problem forever and ever. Far from it. More problems arose. There have been more pension obligation bonds since then. And there are more pension obligation bonds no doubt coming. It could be said the unfunded New Jersey pension and health care benefits crisis is worse now than ever. After all that with Christine Todd Whitman. After all those billions of pension obligation bonds, and New Jersey that much deeper in debt. New Jersey still does not have the necessary money to pay the billions in promised pension and health care benefits. Pension obligation bonds are not a solution. They are not a fix. It seems so obvious. But it was obvious back then as well. If only Christine Todd Whitman had listened more to common sense, and squashed the idea in its earliest days of development. Perhaps pension obligation bonds would have been spurned as they should have been, and never had their beginning. That would have been the profile in courage moment. Instead, she only listened to the siren of Wall Street public finance experts. Is it fair to focus blame on Christine Todd Whitman and the state of New Jersey? There were no doubt many involved those decades ago that share blame. But it is true that whenever anyone in the world of U.S. public finance and municipal bonds hears the name Christine Todd Whitman, they shudder, and think of the financial disaster that is unfunded retirement deficits and failed pension obligation bonds. This is what it is. It is her legacy.
I love municipal bonds. Municipal bonds are really fun. Fun, 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 fun. Municipal bonds, come and enjoy.